think I see like a happy young man. Like waking up every morning and seeing myself in the mirror and being like, whoa, this is awesome. Because I close my eyes and sometimes I don't even know what I look like because I've been in flux for so long. It's the happiest I've ever been with my body. It's just been really fun to learn how to like shave my face and like shape my beard. I grew up in a medical family, but I just never knew that like I was transgender and those were the feelings I was feeling. That there's kind of like a pretty simple fix with cross-hormone therapy. Like you can really change how you look drastically. It had taken me 2 years to get into medical school. So when I finally did get my white coat, it was like all that more of a huge accomplishment for me. And I remember the pictures I took for the white coat ceremony and the dress I wore for the white coat ceremony. It didn't feel wrong. That's the interesting thing about like trans narratives is there's not just one. Like it's not always the child who knew at age 5 that they hated dresses. Well, we lived out in a small town called Tangerine. Both of my parents are conservative Christian. Luckily, my middle sister came out as gay before I did, so she got the brunt of that reaction. Then when I came out as trans, again, because I had been transitioning for a while and my mom had noticed my voice dropped, and I think everyone kind of knew. My youngest sister is 10 years younger than me, and I've always been the primary caregiver to her. My brother had passed away. My dad later developed colon cancer, and my mom developed breast cancer as I was making that decision and during my first and second year of medical school. So like the amount of distress you feel, you have to counterweigh against the amount of distress you're gonna cause in your life and in your community. So growing up in an agricultural town in the South, that balance was always like, I would be in so much more trouble transitioning than the amount of discomfort it was causing me, until it got to the point where this discomfort, because everything else in my life was so stressful, rose above the uncomfortableness of transitioning while on rotations. If my life had been less stressful and I had picked an easier route where I didn't have to live on the very edge of my comfort in terms of how much I was pushing myself academically but also emotionally, it became too uncomfortable for me to live in a body I wasn't 100% identifying with.
Everyone respected Lindsay for the physician that he was becoming, the student doctor. I remember making a conscious recognition that my female student was wearing a man's tie and a man's shirt, and so I had wondered if he identified differently.
So I'm in pediatrics, so I walk into the room and a little boy asks me, like, before I even start anything, he's like, are you a boy or are you a girl? And I look at him and I look at his mom and I'm like, well, not everybody is one or the other. And the mom's like, yep, honey. And then she went on, proceeded and said, like, some people just don't identify as either. And we went on with the exam, and the kid just kind of had that innate curiosity. There was no judgment behind it. I was just at the point of transitioning where I kind of looked like a muscular girl with my hair shaved, but if you were old enough or blind enough, I passed as male. It's tough when you're in a surgery suite and everything is incredibly gendered, and the scrubs are kind of held captive inside those locker rooms.
But it was really about the infrastructure and things like using one locker room on the previous rotation and now being assigned to the male locker room.
So I felt supported enough to come out, and there was definitely a lot of surprises in terms of like unexpected allies.
The surgeon-in-chief made an announcement to the staff and said, this is one of our own, we're going to be respectful, and starting today he is now identifies as a man in our facility. All of the awkwardness probably was within the staff and the faculty. I actually think that's one of the beautiful things about children. They might be honest, but they're sort of very accepting.
For me, it was very tough being open about it. When I came out on Facebook, it was very much supportive. I didn't receive a single negative comment, and I was on testosterone for like almost a year before I told my parents, and of course they knew. I'm in Miami now to get top surgery. It's a pretty big step for me, and I'm super excited. It's gonna be pretty extensive. I'll basically have a scar from one armpit to the other armpit, and they're just gonna remove a whole bunch of tissue and reconstruct my chest so it looks more masculine. I survived! So, just got out of surgery. I got a Percer bandage on. It'll stay on for the next week.
We talked about what we thought was different about Lindsay in the beginning and the end. And really, besides the beard, there's not too much. He's always been very compassionate, very open, very willing to share, you know, very empathetic. And I think just beyond the physical changes, there really hasn't been a significant change on what his personality has been.
I found, well, of course, it's much easier being male than female in the medical field. Kind of like interacting with the nurses in general is much easier because most of the time, if you're female, they don't know who you are and why you're there and in their way. And then if you're male, they assume that you're a physician until you tell them otherwise. It's all new and it's very interesting to navigate. How I move about an operating room as a male versus as a female. The amount of interaction I get with male providers and guidance, and like an odd brotherhood / camaraderie that I didn't know existed among men. I didn't expect and I didn't realize was gonna happen is that some of the older relationships that I've had, like people don't recognize me. My parents' friends, people that I knew from church when I was very young. It's also very, very difficult to approach someone who, you know, may have played a very critical role in my childhood and be vulnerable with them and telling them, you know, who I am and where I am now, knowing that they very well might reject me.
I think because we have this really rare opportunity to watch Lindsay transition, you know, I think it's just instinctively we're very protected.
I personally feel it was an incredibly good decision because he is going to be comfortable in his own skin. His own courage and strength will allow sort of all of us to move with him.
It'd be cool to do a combined program in adolescent medicine and endocrinology, but the end goal / title would be a pediatric endocrinologist who does gender affirming pediatric care. I'm going to be going to Colorado Children's Hospital, so I'm hoping to practice pediatric gender affirming care. I'm going to just be there for other trans kids. I think it'll be really good.
Because he's gone through this whole transition journey, he has all this really invaluable advice and he comes from a perspective that other physicians will not be able to offer.
So happy.
Hard, and that's a hard work.
My grandma's 93, and I just feel so blessed to have her here. She's so excited for me as well, and her sons were both doctors, so it's kind of a family thing, and it's just nice to see how proud they are of me. My dad was a family medicine physician. I was always, of course, assuming that he'd be here for today, and he passed away about 4 weeks ago. He thought that I was going to be in Colorado. He said that you're going to get your #1, so I think he'd be very happy for me right now. And he believed in me from day one, and so it's really rewarding to get to go, and I know that he knows where I'm going to. This is for him.